She toasted at her wedding. Thank God she didn't show up. I left in silence, but silence can have teeth. My name is Miriam Hale. I'm 70 years old, and I live in a quiet coastal suburb outside Cincinnati, Ohio. 3 years ago, I buried my husband Robert after a long battle with cancer. He left me with his love, his memory, and thankfully, enough financial stability, his life insurance, pension savings, and some family investments to live out my years in peace. Before I begin my story, let me ask you something. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and tell me in the comments from which city you're listening to my story. Your voices matter here, and I love knowing where this community gathers from. Now, let me take you back to the day everything changed, or at least, that's what I believed. I raised one daughter, Lauren, brilliant, ambitious, razor sharp. She grew into a successful attorney specializing in divorce and estate law. She always wanted to win every argument, even as a child. I used to smile at her determination. I thought her sharpness would protect her in life. I never imagined she'd one day turn it against me. When Lauren got engaged to Tyler Parker, I was genuinely relieved. Tyler wasn't flashy or arrogant. He came from a hard-working middle-class family. He worked in logistics and carried himself with quiet honesty. I thought he'd be the steady balance Lauren needed. But then came the wedding. The invitation didn't arrive until a week before the ceremony. At first, I thought it was a mistake in the mail. But then I noticed. My envelope had no handwritten note. No warm, "Can't wait to see you, Mom." Just a printed card, as if I were one of many distant acquaintances. My stomach turned. I knew my daughter, and I knew this wasn't accidental. Still, I dressed carefully on that June afternoon. A pale blue dress, Robert's silver bracelet on my wrist. I wanted to honor the occasion, even if my heart carried doubt. The wedding was held at an exclusive country club overlooking the Ohio River, the kind of venue that costs more than most people's annual salary. I couldn't help but wonder, how had they afforded it? I never asked, but the question clung to me like a shadow. When I arrived, I felt misplaced. My seat was at the back, near the restrooms, far from family and close friends, as if someone had deliberately tried to tuck me out of sight. Still, I told myself, stay calm, Miriam. It's her day, not yours. Then came the toast. Lauren stood, glowing in her designer gown, her diamond ring catching the chandelier's light. She raised her glass and said, loud enough for the hall to hear, "Thank God she didn't show up earlier. At least we got through the ceremony without unnecessary drama." The room laughed, some nervously, some eagerly. My ears rang. My own daughter had just toasted to my absence, while I sat there, invisible in the back row. I felt heat rise to my face, but I didn't speak, not a word. I stood, gathered my purse, and walked out into the night air. I heard whispers follow me. Was that her mother? Did she really say that? But I didn't turn back. Silence, I realized, could be sharper than words. I drove home in the dark, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. I kept replaying her voice. Thank God she didn't show up. It stung worse than any insult I'd ever heard. And yet some part of me knew this wasn't just cruelty. This was cover. When I walked into my house, I didn't cry. I didn't collapse. Instead, I went straight to the closet and pulled down a heavy box from the top shelf. A box I hadn't opened since Robert passed. Inside were folders, envelopes, copies of financial statements, wills, and amendments. My husband had been meticulous. He believed paper was proof, and proof was protection. As I laid everything across the dining table, something caught my eye. A set of documents I didn't remember him ever signing. Powers of attorney, amendments to our trust, odd dates, odd witnesses. One name in particular stared back at me: Miriam Hale. Her signature wasn't just on the papers as attorney, it was there as a witness to my supposed incompetence. I felt a chill race down my spine. My daughter had raised a glass to my absence at her wedding, and now, in the quiet of my own home, I began to understand why. But what I discovered in those papers went far beyond a cruel toast at a wedding, and if you knew what I would find next, you'd never look at family trust the same way again. I didn't sleep that night. The box of documents sat open on my dining table, papers scattered like puzzle pieces waiting to be fit together. The lamp glowed softly above me, but my thoughts raced sharper than any light bulb could burn. Robert had always trusted me to keep things orderly. He believed in calendars, notes, signed copies, even duplicates stored in safety deposit boxes. He used to joke, "Paper remembers better than people do." Now those very papers seemed to whisper that something was wrong. I flipped through account summaries. The balances didn't add up. Certain investment accounts appeared closed, without any explanation. Yet I remembered Robert talking about those funds only months before he passed. One folder showed large wire transfers, tens of thousands of dollars, made during his final treatments. My heart pounded as I checked the dates. Those were days when Robert was bedridden, too weak to lift a pen, let alone authorize financial moves. Then there were the powers of attorney. They looked official, neatly typed, signed, notarized. But the witnesses listed were odd. One was a junior associate from Lauren's law firm, another, a friend of hers I barely knew. And the language, it declared me in need of protective oversight, should my cognition decline. I remembered the appointments Lauren had insisted I attend during Robert's last year: neurological checkups, memory tests, just to be safe. At the time, I thought it was concern. Now I wondered, had she been laying a foundation? My hands trembled as I picked up a copy of Robert's will. The original version, written years before, was clear. Everything to me, his wife. Upon my death, what remained would pass to our daughter. Straightforward, loving. But in the amended papers dated just 3 months before his death, subtle shifts appeared. Mentions of financial restructuring, references to trusts optimized for efficiency, signatures that looked like Robert's, yet shakier, uneven, as if made by a man under sedation. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Oh, Robert, what did she make you sign?" The more I studied, the more a sickening picture formed. Lauren hadn't simply forgotten me at her wedding. She had been quietly repositioning herself for years, brick by brick, document by document. The toast wasn't just cruelty, it was relief. Relief that the person she had tried to push aside hadn't disrupted her shining stage, but she had underestimated me. At dawn, I made myself a cup of coffee and sat by the window. The Ohio River glistened faintly in the morning light. I thought of Robert, of how he had loved watching the sunrise. I thought of his voice telling me once, "Miriam, if you ever feel cornered, don't raise your voice, raise your evidence." So that's what I would do. The next day, I picked up the phone and called a man named Ray Mathis. He was a retired private investigator who used to work with Robert on business disputes, back when Robert managed some of his company's contracts. I remembered Ray as a straightforward man, gruff, but trustworthy. When he answered, his voice carried the gravel of age, but also a thread of warmth. "Miriam Hale, it's been years. What can I do for you?" "Ray," I said, steadying my voice, "I need help, quiet help. It's about Lauren." There was a pause, then a low sigh. "Tell me everything." I invited him over that afternoon. He arrived in an old Chevy truck, wearing a faded jacket and carrying a leather satchel. When he stepped inside, his eyes immediately scanned the papers spread across my dining table. We sat for hours, me explaining what I'd found, him flipping pages with a practiced hand. He asked sharp questions, dates, names, timelines. He pointed out things I hadn't even noticed, like how certain transfers had been routed through temporary holding accounts before disappearing, or how the notary stamp on one document was inconsistent with the date it was supposedly filed. "This isn't just sloppy, Miriam," he muttered finally. "This looks deliberate. Classic elder financial abuse. I've seen it before. The pattern's always the same. First they create the illusion of declining capacity. Then they take control piece by piece. Then they cut you off completely." His words hit me like cold rain. Elder financial abuse. I'd read about it in passing, but never imagined my own daughter might be orchestrating it against me. Ray tapped one folder. "And here's the kicker. These wedding expenses, see this account? These payments line up exactly with the deposits that disappeared from Robert's investment fund. And this one, down payment on a house, in Tyler Parker's name. Did you know about that?" I shook my head slowly, my stomach dropping. "And here, student loans paid off for someone named Brian Fletcher. That ring a bell?" "No," I whispered. "Who is he?" Ray shrugged. "Could be anyone. But the money trail is clear. It's your family's money footing the bill." I felt both sick and strangely focused. The betrayal burned, yes, but my mind sharpened with each revelation. Robert had trusted me with this legacy, and I would not let his memory be twisted into her ladder. Ray leaned back. "Miriam, you've got a strong case. But if you want to go further, you'll need more than just suspicion. You'll need recordings, witness testimony, maybe even federal eyes on this. You ready for that?" I met his gaze, my voice firm. "I've been underestimated my whole life, Ray. Yes, I'm ready." That night, alone again in my kitchen, I looked at Robert's silver bracelet glinting on my wrist. My heart hurt, but it also steadied. For the first time since the wedding, I felt something new. Not despair, but resolve. I whispered into the quiet house. "Robert, I'll protect what we built, I promise." But what Ray uncovered next would shake me even more. Hidden accounts, deeper debts, and a plan Lauren had for me that went far beyond finances. If you knew the trap she was setting, you'd never trust a helpful family member again. Ray and I agreed on one thing. The only way forward was evidence. Cold, undeniable, time-stamped evidence. So when Lauren called me a few days later, her tone dripping with what she no doubt thought was sweetness, I already knew what I had to do. "Mom," she said brightly over the phone, "let's have lunch together this week. My treat. We should clear the air after the wedding." Clear the air, as if I'd been the one who raised a glass and mocked her mother's absence. Still, I accepted. "Of course, dear. Just tell me when and where." She chose the Magnolia Room, one of the most expensive restaurants in downtown Cincinnati, the kind of place with starched white linens, hushed waiters, and a wine list that reads like an encyclopedia. I arrived early, dressed in a simple navy dress, my late husband's silver bracelet once again on my wrist. Before I left the house, Ray handed me a small device, a sleek black pen with a tiny button hidden near the clip. "Press once to start, once to stop," he said. "Keep it in your purse or on the table. Just don't touch it too much. She'll never notice." I slipped it into my handbag, my fingers trembling as I did. Lauren swept into the restaurant 15 minutes late, her heels clicking like gunshots against the marble floor. She looked immaculate. Cream-colored suit, designer bag, her hair pinned into a sleek twist. She kissed my cheek lightly, already scanning the room for who might be watching. "Mother," she said with a smile too bright to be real, "you look rested." I returned the smile, equally thin. Thank you for inviting me, Lauren. We ordered. Salmon for her, a bowl of soup for me. The moment the waiter walked away, her voice shifted. The sweetness drained, leaving behind the tone I remembered from countless childhood arguments, the voice of a lawyer preparing to corner her witness. Mom, we need to talk about your future. Living alone at your age, it's not safe. You forget things. You misplace bills. You've been confused at doctor's appointments. I let the words hang between us, my face carefully blank. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. There are wonderful independent living facilities. 5-star, really. They handle meals, medications, transportation. I've already looked into one for you, about $4,000 or $5,000 a month, which your accounts can easily cover if we reallocate some funds. There it was, the script, exactly as Ray had predicted. I raised an eyebrow. Reallocate? Yes, she said smoothly. We'd need to move certain investments into my management, temporarily, of course. It's just to make sure things don't get misplaced. Honestly, Mom, it's time you let someone else handle it. You've earned a rest. Her words wrapped in silk, but underneath I heard the steel. I took a slow sip of water, then asked, And you think I'm incapable? Lauren sighed, feigning patience. Don't take it the wrong way. But yes, you've shown signs. Forgetfulness. Poor judgment. Even Dad noticed before he passed. Why else would he sign over those documents? My heart tightened, but I kept my voice calm. Interesting, because I remember Dad saying he trusted me to manage everything. She smiled thinly. Memory is a funny thing, isn't it? I glanced at my purse where the pen rested quietly, recording every poisonous word. The waiter brought our meals. Lauren barely touched hers, too busy outlining her plan. She spoke of streamlining, of liquidating unnecessary assets. She mentioned selling the house, my house, the one Robert and I built a life in, for something more manageable. I asked, almost casually, and who would manage the funds after the sale? She didn't even blink. I would, of course. It's simpler that way. The confidence in her tone chilled me. She truly believed she had already won. Halfway through the meal, she pulled a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. These are just preliminary forms, nothing binding yet. Look them over, think it through. But sooner is better. Banks and doctors are already asking questions about your capacity. I can handle that for you, before things get complicated. I didn't open the folder. I didn't have to. The trap was clear. Instead, I set my spoon down, folded my hands, and looked her straight in the eye. Lauren, I appreciate your concern. I'll take a look. Her eyes softened, mistaking my calm for surrender. Good. I knew you'd see reason. This is best for everyone. We finished lunch in brittle politeness. She kissed my cheek again before leaving, her perfume lingering in the air like smoke after a fire. The moment she disappeared through the glass doors, I pressed the button on the pen, ending the recording. My heart raced, but for the first time in weeks, I felt strong. At home, I called Ray immediately. He arrived that evening, and together we listened. Hearing Lauren's voice, cool and calculating, was both painful and empowering. This is gold, Ray said, jotting notes. She's not just talking about helping you. She's creating a record of supposed decline. This is how they build a guardianship case. But now you've got her, on tape, saying it outright. I leaned back in my chair, exhaustion flooding me. So what now? Ray's expression darkened. Now we dig deeper. We follow the money, trace every transfer. And Miriam, be ready. If she feels cornered, she'll come harder. They always do. I touched Robert's bracelet, feeling its cool weight. For the first time, I wasn't just a widow fumbling through grief. I was a woman armed with truth. But Ray was right. Within days, Lauren struck back, and the way she tried to discredit me next nearly cost me everything, until an unlikely ally stepped forward. Ray was right. The storm came faster than I expected. 3 days after our lunch, I went to withdraw a small amount of cash for groceries. The teller's polite smile faltered as she typed on her screen. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Hale," she said quietly, "but there's a temporary flag on your account. We'll need additional authorization before we can release any funds." A flag? On my account? I straightened my shoulders. And what authorization would that be? The teller leaned closer, lowering her voice. "We've received notice expressing concern about possible diminished capacity. Until it's resolved, withdrawals above a certain limit require a cosigner." I felt the blood drain from my face. There was only one person who would dare. Lauren. I thanked the teller, calm on the outside, fire raging inside. As soon as I reached home, I called Ray. He listened, then cursed under his breath. "She's moving fast," he said. "Classic playbook. Get the bank to doubt you, then file for guardianship. By the time you fight it, she's already in control." I clenched Robert's bracelet on my wrist. "Not if I fight back first." Ray wasted no time. He arranged an appointment with a respected geriatric psychiatrist, Dr. Evelyn Marsh, who specialized in competency evaluations. "I want this documented," Ray said. "When the court sees her claim, we'll have ironclad proof you're sound." Dr. Marsh's office smelled faintly of lavender. She was kind, professional, and thorough. For nearly 2 hours, she tested my memory, reasoning, financial understanding. She asked about current events, had me interpret bank statements, even role-played scenarios about scams and fraud. When we finished, she set down her pen and smiled. "Mrs. Hale, your cognition is intact. Your insight into your finances is excellent. Whatever concern was raised, it doesn't align with my findings. I'll prepare a full report." Relief washed over me. But it was only the first battle. The very next day, an official letter arrived from Adult Protective Services. Someone, no mystery who, had reported me for self-neglect. The letter cited unsafe living conditions and inability to manage daily needs. I almost laughed. My house was neat, my pantry stocked, my bills paid on time. Lauren must have been counting on the stereotype of the frail, forgetful widow. When the APS worker, a woman named Ms. Rodriguez, came for a visit, I welcomed her warmly. "Please come in," I said, leading her through the spotless kitchen, the organized files on my desk, the fresh laundry folded neatly in the basket. She raised her eyebrows. "Mrs. Hale, forgive me for asking, but why would someone report you for neglect? Everything here is in order." I met her gaze steadily. "Because someone stands to gain if I appear incapable." Ms. Rodriguez nodded slowly. "Well, I'll make my notes. From what I see, you're managing just fine." That night, Ray and I sat at the dining table, papers spread out once more. "She's not just greedy, Miriam," he said. "She's strategic. She's trying to build a narrative, piece by piece, that you're incompetent. Bank flags, APS reports, all of it lines up. If she pushes it into court, she'll argue guardianship is in your best interest." I leaned forward, determination hardening in my chest. "Then we'll build a stronger narrative, one that shows the truth." Ray tapped the recorder. "You've already got her admitting to wanting control. With the doctor's report and APS's findings, she's the one who looks manipulative. But Miriam, be ready. People like Lauren don't back down easy. If she feels the walls closing in, she might get reckless." He was right. 2 days later, I received a formal letter from Lauren's law office. She had filed a petition in probate court requesting temporary guardianship of her mother, me, citing progressive cognitive decline and financial vulnerability. My hands shook as I read it, but not from fear, from rage. How dare she? I called Ray. She wants a fight in court? Then she'll get one, but not the kind she's expecting. Ray's voice was calm, steady. Good, because we're not just defending you anymore. We're going on the offensive. That night, I sat by the window, the Ohio River shimmering under the moonlight. I thought of Robert, of the way he used to say that silence could be armor, and I realized he was right. My silence at the wedding had been the first strike. Now my evidence would be the second. I pressed the bracelet against my lips and whispered, "You trusted me, Robert. I won't let her erase us." But just as I prepared for court, a new discovery surfaced. Proof that Lauren's betrayal went far beyond me. When I saw the evidence Robert himself had left behind, I knew the truth would change everything. The night before the first court hearing, I sat at the dining table once again, staring at the mountain of files spread before me. Each paper told a fragment of the truth, yet something still felt incomplete, like a puzzle missing its most important piece. That's when I noticed it. At the very bottom of the box, beneath yellowed insurance statements and faded photographs, was a smaller silver case. I remembered Robert buying it years ago to hold keepsakes. My hands shook as I opened the clasp. Inside lay two things: a sealed envelope with my name written in his unmistakable hand, and a small black flash drive taped to the flap. For a long moment I couldn't breathe. My husband's handwriting, so careful, so steady, felt like his voice reaching out from beyond the grave. I opened the envelope. The letter was dated just a month before he died. "My dearest Miriam, if you are reading this, it means I did not find the courage to confront Lauren while I was alive. I want you to know first and foremost, I love you. Everything I did trying to buy us more time together. But I fear I let myself be cornered. I signed papers I did not fully understand, under pressure, with the promise that it would ease the burden. My mind was clear, but my body was too weak to fight. Miriam, Lauren has been moving client funds through her trust account. She told me it was temporary, that she would return them. I signed things I shouldn't have, believing her when she said it was for the good of her firm. But I know now it was theft. She delayed payments to clients, shifted funds, and used my illness as cover. I tried to stop it, but I was too tired to keep watch. I am leaving this flash drive for you. It has my recordings, notes, and copies of statements I managed to gather. Please, if the truth comes to light, protect yourself. Protect Tyler, too. He is honest. He does not know what she is capable of. Yours always, Robert." Tears blurred my vision. I pressed the letter to my chest, whispering his name over and over. He had known. He had tried, even in his frailty, to guard me from the storm. Ray came over the next morning, and together we plugged the flash drive into his laptop. My hand shook so much that he gently took the drive from me, whispering, "I've got it, Miriam." The screen lit up with folders labeled in Robert's meticulous style. Statements, audio, notes. We opened the audio first. Robert's voice filled the room, weak, raspy, but steady. "If anyone hears this, know that Lauren has delayed funds for the Carson divorce settlement. She claimed the client's payment hadn't cleared, but I saw the check myself. She deposited it into her trust account. She told me not to worry, that she would balance it later. I don't believe her." Another recording. "Today she brought me documents while I was half asleep from treatment. She said it was routine, just signatures to keep things moving. I signed. God forgive me. I signed without reading closely. I think I gave her too much power. Miriam, if you find this, don't trust what she puts in front of you. Check everything. I felt my chest tighten with grief and fury. Lauren hadn't just stolen from me. She had used her dying father as a pawn. Then came the video file. Robert sat in his recliner, pale and thin, but his eyes still sharp. Tyler, if you ever see this, it means the truth is out. Son, you need to know Lauren has crossed lines. She used client money. She pushed me into decisions when I was too sick to resist. I wanted to believe she'd fix it, but I don't anymore. If she tries to corner your mother, you must stand with her. Don't let my mistakes cost Miriam everything. Ray paused the video, his face grave. Miriam, this isn't just family drama. This is evidence of professional misconduct, financial fraud, and maybe more. If the Bar Association gets this, if the feds get this, Lauren's career is over. I sat frozen, the weight of Robert's words pressing into me. My daughter, my only child, had not only betrayed me but also dishonored the man who had adored her. Ray leaned forward. You need to decide, Miriam. Do you keep this quiet and try to negotiate, or do you go all the way, expose her, even if it destroys her life? I wiped my eyes, my voice low but firm. She already destroyed the life we had. I won't protect her lies. That evening I called Tyler. My voice shook when I invited him to dinner, but I kept it simple. There's something you need to see, Tyler. Something Robert left behind. When he arrived, his face was still glowing from the wedding, hopeful, unaware of the darkness he had married into. We sat at my dining table and I slid the laptop toward him. Please, I said softly. Watch. He did, and as Robert's frail voice spoke of betrayal and theft, Tyler's expression shifted, from confusion to disbelief, then to horror. Finally, silence. He closed the laptop and sat back, his hands covering his mouth. Miriam, this can't be true. It is, I whispered. I wish it weren't. But you needed to know. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he looked up, his eyes hardening. If this is real, if she really did all this, then she didn't just betray you. She betrayed me, too. I reached for his hand, my voice breaking. Tyler, I'm so sorry. He shook his head slowly. Don't be sorry. Be ready. Because if what Robert left is true, we're going to the FBI. But when Tyler and I brought Robert's files to federal agents, the investigation uncovered more than I ever imagined. Secrets buried in bank accounts, forged papers, even signs my husband's death might not have been natural. 2 days after Tyler watched Robert's video, we sat together in the waiting room of the FBI's Cincinnati field office. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I had never imagined I would set foot in a place like this, clutching a folder of my late husband's files and a flash drive full of his dying words. Tyler sat beside me, his jaw tight, his hands clenched. He hadn't spoken much since dinner at my house. When he did, it was short, clipped sentences. I knew the weight of betrayal pressed just as heavily on him as it did on me. A woman in a navy suit entered the waiting area and introduced herself. Agent Sarah Collins, she said firmly, shaking both our hands. Her grip was strong, her eyes sharp, but not unkind. Let's talk in my office. We followed her down a long hallway into a room lined with files and a humming computer. I sat across from her, my palms sweating, while Tyler placed the flash drive on her desk as if it were an explosive. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. From the wedding toast to the hidden amendments, from the bank flag to Robert's recordings, Tyler added his part, how he had never suspected, how he felt blindsided. Agent Collins listened without interrupting, occasionally scribbling notes. When I finished, she plugged the flash drive into her computer. We watched together as Robert's frail face appeared on the screen, his voice filling the small office. By the time the video ended, Agent Collins leaned back, her expression grim. "This isn't just a family dispute," she said. "This is serious. Elder fraud, misuse of client trust funds, potential mail and wire fraud. And if your husband's medical suspicions are correct, possibly more." I swallowed hard. "What do we do?" She looked directly at me. "You've already done the hardest part. You came forward. From here, we'll open an official investigation. But Miriam, I won't lie to you. Your daughter is going to fight back. She's a lawyer. She knows the system, and she'll try to paint you as unstable. You'll need to be prepared for a long road." I nodded, my voice steady. "I'm prepared." Tyler cleared his throat. "What about me? What should I do?" Agent Collins studied him for a moment. "If you're willing, Mr. Parker, you may be an important witness. You're married to her. You've had access to conversations, documents, finances. Anything you remember, even small details, could matter." Tyler's face hardened. "Then I'll tell you everything I know." For the next hour, he described small oddities, sudden payments, excuses about client money being delayed, expensive purchases that seemed out of reach. Each detail added weight to the growing case. When we finally left the office, the sun was setting over the Ohio River. I felt both drained and strangely lighter. For the first time since Robert's death, I wasn't carrying this burden alone. But the relief didn't last long. 2 mornings later, a thick envelope arrived by certified mail. Inside was a petition filed by Lauren, accusing me of financial mismanagement, mental decline, and endangerment of self. She requested immediate guardianship over me. Attached were copies of bank statements, statements I had never seen before, that made it look like I had been withdrawing erratic sums, missing payments, even overdrawing accounts. The problem was the documents were expertly crafted. To an outsider, they looked real. I stared at the papers, my hands trembling. "She forged these," I whispered. Ray confirmed it. "See this?" He pointed to tiny discrepancies in the headers, formatting that didn't match the bank's standard. "She built these as a smokescreen, to make you look incompetent while she siphoned money out the back door." The cruelty of it stunned me. She hadn't just lied. She had engineered an entire alternate reality where her mother was the problem, not her. Agent Collins called that afternoon. "We've reviewed some of Robert's notes," she said. "There are transfers through at least 18 accounts, some offshore. The scale is larger than we thought. Miriam, your daughter may be looking at federal charges well beyond elder fraud." Her words left me shaken, yet a spark of vindication burned inside. For years, Lauren had believed she was the smartest person in every room. Now the walls she built were turning into evidence. Still, the danger grew. The very next week, a man came to my door. He claimed to be from a home care agency, saying he was sent to evaluate my needs. Something in his demeanor chilled me, his questions too probing, his tone too rehearsed. I told him firmly to leave and immediately called Ray. "She's escalating," Ray muttered, "trying to build outside witnesses who'll say you're failing. But Miriam, you're not alone. We've got Collins, the doctor's report, APS's clean visit. She's losing ground, and she knows it." That night Tyler came by. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. "She confronted me," he admitted, "asked if I was talking to you. She said if I stayed loyal to you, she'd make sure I regretted it." My stomach knotted. "What did you say?" He looked at me with quiet resolve. "I told her the truth, that I'd seen the files, that I believed Robert." She went cold, Miriam. I've never seen her like that. I placed my hand over his. "She'll try to scare you. Don't let her. You've done nothing wrong." But inside, I felt the chill of knowing Lauren was cornered, and people who are cornered often strike the hardest, and strike she did. The deeper the FBI dug, the darker the truth became. What they found in Lauren's records not only exposed her theft, it raised terrifying questions about Robert's final days. The call came just after breakfast. Agent Collins's voice was steady but edged with urgency. "Miriam, we need to meet. There's been a development." My hands tightened around the receiver. "Is it Lauren?" "Yes," she said, "and Robert." Within the hour, Tyler and I sat across from her in the FBI office. A thick folder lay on the table between us. Agent Collins opened it slowly, as though revealing something too heavy to rush. "We've traced additional accounts," she began. "Not only was Lauren funneling client funds through her trust, she used some of the money to pay premiums on multiple life insurance policies. 2 of those policies were on your name, Miriam, $500,000 each, and 1 was on Tyler." Tyler's head snapped up. "On me?" Agent Collins nodded grimly. "Filed without your knowledge, signed using stolen or forged documentation, paid with misappropriated funds." The room spun for a moment. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. "She insured us?" I whispered. "With stolen money?" "Yes, which means if something happened to you, or to Tyler, she would profit." A chill spread through me, colder than any winter I had ever known. But Agent Collins wasn't finished. She turned another page, her eyes meeting mine. "There's more. We had forensic pathologists review Robert's medical records. His decline in the last month doesn't match typical progression for his type of cancer. Symptoms appeared inconsistent, particularly the sudden cardiac failure." My breath caught. "What are you saying?" She paused, then said carefully, "We found evidence suggesting digitalis poisoning, a cardiac drug. In the wrong dosage, it can induce heart failure, especially in patients already weakened by illness." The words seemed to echo through the room. Poisoning. My husband. I closed my eyes, Robert's face flashing before me. His final days, the way he struggled to breathe, the suddenness of it. All the times Lauren had brought him tea, insisted on managing his medication schedule. Agent Collins's voice softened. "We've requested an exhumation for toxicology. If the findings confirm this, the case escalates from financial fraud to homicide." Tyler muttered a curse, burying his face in his hands. I sat frozen, my heart heavy with both grief and rage. "She killed him," I whispered. "She killed her father." No one answered. The silence was answer enough. That night, I sat alone in my living room, the silver bracelet cold against my wrist. I felt Robert's absence more keenly than ever, but also his presence, like he had left me breadcrumbs, each document, each note, leading me to the truth. I whispered into the empty house, "I won't let her bury you twice, Robert. I promise." The next morning, I awoke to the sound of my phone buzzing with notifications. News outlets had picked up on the FBI investigation into a prominent Cincinnati divorce attorney. Lauren's name wasn't public yet, but whispers spread fast. Clients began demanding answers, and some filed formal complaints with the state bar. Ray stopped by later that day with more findings. He spread papers across my table, his finger jabbing at numbers. "Look here. Not just $200,000 or $400,000, closer to $800,000 misappropriated over several years. And these notes? She tracked it all, Miriam. Every penny. Almost like she thought she was untouchable." He leaned back, shaking his head. "This isn't greed. This is pathology." I thought back to the girl Lauren once was, sharp, competitive, hungry to prove herself. I had raised her to be strong, but somewhere along the way, strength twisted into entitlement. She thought I was weak, I said quietly. That I would fold, stay quiet. She never counted on silence being stronger than her noise. Tyler sat across from me, his face pale but resolute. Miriam, I don't know what happens next, but I want you to know I'm with you, all the way. His words steadied me. He had married into my family, only to discover betrayal at its core. Yet here he was, choosing loyalty to truth over convenience. 2 days later, Agent Collins called again. The toxicology report is in. Robert's body showed elevated levels of digitalis consistent with poisoning. Combined with the financial motive and insurance policies, the prosecutor is preparing charges of first-degree murder alongside fraud and elder abuse. I sank into a chair, the phone pressed against my ear. Tears slid down my cheeks, not just grief, but vindication. Justice, I whispered. Finally. Agent Collins's voice was steady. This will go to trial. It won't be easy, Miriam. She'll deny, she'll fight. But the evidence is strong. You need to be ready to testify. I wiped my tears and drew in a deep breath. I'll be ready. That evening I stood on my porch, watching the Ohio River glisten under the fading sun. For the first time I felt something shift inside me, not just sorrow, not just anger, but dignity. I had been mocked, dismissed, nearly erased, but I had not broken. Robert had left me the tools. Silence had been my shield, and now the truth would be my sword. But the trial brought more than just justice. It revealed the full scale of Lauren's schemes and forced me to face the hardest question of all. Could I still love my daughter after everything she had done? The courthouse in downtown Cincinnati was packed the morning Lauren's trial began. Reporters hovered on the steps like vultures, cameras clicking as if each flash could strip away another layer of truth. I kept my head down, Tyler by my side, Ray close behind. Inside, the air was heavy with tension. I watched as Lauren entered in a tailored suit, her posture rigid, her expression calm but brittle. She glanced at me only once, eyes cold, lips pressed into a thin line. For a brief second, I searched her face for the daughter I had raised. All I saw was steel. The charges were read aloud: financial fraud, elder abuse, forgery, misappropriation of client trust funds, and first-degree murder. Each word struck me like a drumbeat. My daughter, standing accused not only of betraying her clients and her mother, but of killing her own father. The prosecution opened with precision. Agent Collins took the stand, presenting the trail of bank transfers, the forged documents, the insurance policies. Expert witnesses explained the toxicology results, how Robert's body carried unmistakable traces of digitalis. Then came the recordings. The courtroom went silent as Robert's frail voice filled the air. Miriam, if you find this, don't trust what she puts in front of you. Check everything. And then the video. Robert, looking straight into the camera, naming Lauren's theft, pleading with Tyler to stand by me. Gasps rippled through the room. Even the judge's face hardened. Lauren's defense tried to paint a different picture. They argued Robert was confused from medication, that I was bitter and vindictive, that Tyler was manipulated by grief. But the evidence was too strong, the trail too precise. When it was my turn to testify, my hands trembled, but my voice held steady. I told the court about the wedding, the cruel toast, the lunch where Lauren suggested I was losing my mind. I described the forged statements, the bank flags, the APS visit, and I ended with Robert's words. Paper remembers better than people do. For a moment, the room was utterly silent. Then Tyler testified. His voice cracked at first, but soon grew firm. He spoke of the trust he'd had in Lauren, the betrayal, the threats when he refused to side with her. His pain was plain to see, and it pierced through any lingering doubts. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Each day revealed another layer of corruption. Nearly $800,000 stolen, clients left scrambling, fraudulent insurance schemes, and finally, the chilling evidence of deliberate poisoning. When the jury retired to deliberate, I sat in the hallway, hands folded around Robert's bracelet. I whispered a prayer, not for vengeance, but for truth. The verdict came back swift and unanimous, guilty on all counts. Lauren's face barely moved as the words were read. Only her eyes flickered, the first crack in her mask. The judge sentenced her to life in prison, without parole. Her license to practice law was revoked, her assets seized, and the state bar began restitution for her clients from the protection fund. I sat motionless, my heart both heavy and strangely light. Justice had been done, but it didn't erase the wound of losing my daughter, not to death, but to her own choices. Afterward, Tyler walked me out of the courthouse. The press swarmed, shouting questions, cameras flashing. One reporter called, "Mrs. Hale, do you have anything to say?" I paused on the steps, then lifted my head. My voice was quiet, but it carried. Yes, paper remembers everything, and so does silence. Don't ever let anyone tell you that protecting yourself means you're selfish. It means you're strong. The crowd hushed, and for the first time, I felt Robert's dignity coursing through me. The months that followed were both difficult and healing. Restitution brought back much of what Lauren had stolen. With the settlement, I restored Robert's accounts, donated to a client protection fund, and finally booked the trip he had always wanted us to take together. I stood in Rome, tossing a coin into the Trevi fountain, whispering, "For new beginnings." The water sparkled in the Italian sun, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Tyler called often. 6 months after the trial, he told me he was engaged again. His voice carried both joy and caution. "She knows my past," he said, "and she asked for a prenuptial agreement. At first I felt hurt, but then I realized protecting ourselves isn't cynicism, it's wisdom." I smiled through the phone. "That's exactly right, Tyler. Boundaries aren't walls, they're love." Now, when I sit on my porch in Cincinnati, watching the Ohio River flow, I feel Robert beside me, not in sorrow, but in peace. Lauren's choices broke my heart, but my silence, my patience, my faith in the truth, they carried me through. So to you listening now, protect your papers, guard your dignity, and never doubt the quiet strength you carry inside. Thank you for listening to my story. Please like this video so more women can see how silence and strength can change everything. Subscribe to the channel for more, and don't forget to tell me in the comments from which city you're watching. I love hearing your voices.